Hey everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Upcycled Adulting, where I am here to help you upcycle your real life into your best life. That's right, it's my new tagline. I'm so obsessed with it. At any rate, today I want to talk about how to find yourself. There's all this buzz about loving yourself and living authentically and all of this. But what happens when you feel like you don't even know who you are? You feel like you've lost a connection with your true self or your true identity, or maybe you never really had it to begin with. And that happens, y'all, when we are parentified, when we're young, when we're living up to expectations. Maybe our parents or other people in our family are living vicariously through us. And we feel like we're consistently under a lot of pressure to be what everyone else expects us to be. And I know this really came to a head for me and many of my friends when I had kids. And I felt like I was totally and completely defined by my kids, being a mom, being my partner's wife, being right. And I felt like everywhere I went, I didn't quite fit, or I didn't quite know who I was outside of my roles or my work. And this, side note, can happen in your work life too. You are a nurse, you are a teacher, and that becomes everything that you know about who you are. But there is more to you than that. And you may be feeling a little bit lost, or you might be in a funk, or maybe you're struggling to find your joy again because you're disconnected from yourself. Maybe you're struggling to forgive yourself. Maybe you no longer really can hear your intuition or trust your gut. Today, we're going to talk about exactly how to break through. I have been there, and I know that on the other side, it's so much better. Y'all, it's so much better. And listen, if you're sitting out there and you're like, man, I thought that that was just me. Man, I have felt so ashamed. And I have to tell you this, I really struggled with this because I was like, I am a Gen X feminist. How in the world could I have lost myself to my husband or to my kids? That just felt like such an affront to me. But I have to tell you, this happens in most people's lives. And when we don't do this work, a lot of times, y'all, this is what leads to a midlife crisis. So this happens in most people's lives. Most people have experienced this at some point in time. So you are not alone. Let me give you 5 awesome tips to help you reconnect with your true authentic self and find yourself or find your identity. And just so you know, this works whether you are 16 or 65 or 95. This is going to work for you. And it doesn't take a lot of time for all y'all busy moms out there. It does not take that long. I promise you can do it. We're going to make it really simple. So, number one is to create a mindset where you welcome and accept yourself. A lot of times, and I will talk about this in detail in my next video. So don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss it. A lot of times, what happens is we lose our identity because we find something about ourselves to be unacceptable, or we're unwilling to embrace something about ourselves. Now, that may be happening because it didn't meet the expectations of your family of origin, or because it's unconventional, or because it's different. So, if everybody out there could just take a moment to recognize that your uniqueness really matters, even your uniqueness in ways that feel like weaknesses. It does actually matter. And that being open to discovering your strengths and your challenges, being open to discover the things about you that you're proud of and the things about you that you're not so proud of, or maybe that your family has taught you you shouldn't be so proud of. That being open to that allows you to actually show up. Most of us are so critical of ourselves. We're so harsh and judgmental of ourselves that it's impossible for the real us to show up because we're hard on ourselves and we're scared to show up just in front of ourselves. So let's take a moment to just set down our judgment. to just move away from that space where we are predetermining what we are supposed to be and rejecting things, right? Or punishing ourselves for things that are really about us. Okay? And one of the things I say a lot is I'm weird. I am so weird and I love that about myself. And I always encourage other people to be weird too because that's how you know that that's who they really are. And so again, in my follow up to this video where I dig really deep here, I'm going to share some of the things about me that I really struggled to understand or embrace or accept, and how big the impact was of my changing my perspective on those things. Number two is journaling. Now, I know many of you already journal if you had a really bad day, but I actually mean just journaling every day. Even if it's just a brain dump, even if it's just all the things in your brain, you're getting them on paper. Taking a little bit of time to journal can really make a big difference. Now, I have to tell you that if you're struggling to welcome and accept yourself, you may struggle to journal because you might actually struggle to be honest in your journal. So it's really important that we do that. Now, many people have talked to me about this. I had a bad trust violation experience with my journal as a kid. And I know I'm not the only one because whenever I talk about journaling, y'all come in the comments and tell me how you struggle to journal because you're afraid someone will find it. And then they'll know what you're really thinking. And there's a lot of layers to this. So I have done things like keep my journal in a locked or closed space on my computer. That's possible. And I've also done things like, even as an adult, I will tell you, I will admit to this, like hiding my journal, keeping it in a secret place, journaling only when I'm alone so nobody knows that I even have a journal. Obviously, I'm in a different place in my life now, and I trust the people in my life not to violate my privacy in that way. But really, the only way I could feel safe when I started off was to hide my journaling and to hide my journal. And so, if that's where you're at, I just want you to know that it's okay. It's okay for you to do that. Early on in my journey with this, I would write things down and then I would actually destroy them. But I found that keeping my journals was really helpful and insightful. And so I started just finding ways for them to be invisible. Over time, I promise you this will get better. It just takes some time to get into the rhythm of journaling again, and then to get into a space where you feel much more comfortable about enforcing boundaries about your privacy, and you feel that that is something that you can ask for and expect to receive and navigate if it is not appropriately handled. Number three is time travel. So, no, we cannot get into a time machine and go back in time. Y'all, I know some of us wish we could, but we can't. But what we can do is think back. A lot of times in our younger days, we had a deeper connection to who we are. This is particularly true if you came from a more functional, healthy family of origin that allowed you to really flourish when you were younger. You may have lost connection with some of that because once we get into the real world, right, then we have real world stuff we should be thinking about. As Molly Ringwald said in The Breakfast Club, when you become an adult, your heart dies. And I don't believe that to be true. I've never subscribed to that idea, but there is a space where as an adult, you get so busy and so wrapped up in the busyness that you can lose your way and you can lose your connection to yourself and the things that you used to love and the things that used to fire you up. And so really thinking about, what did I love as a kid? What did I want to be when I grew up? What was I passionate about? What was I excited about? Did I love playing a sport? Did I love doing a hobby? Can I bring that back into my life to reconnect? One of the best ways to do this, regardless of what kind of family you came from, or what your family of origin is through music. Music and scent are both deeply connected to memory and to experiences. And so I know sometimes when I hear certain songs from my youth that it just takes me right back there, right? If I hear Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, I am right back to my childhood. And if I hear Pearl Jam, I am right back to my college days. Okay. Now y'all know exactly how old I am. But there's music that we connect with various different phases of our lives. And a lot of time, music just resonates at the core of who we are. There's a lot of science around this, a lot of science related to frequency in music, etc. But just know that if you're struggling to find yourself or to reconnect with yourself, that turning on the music you loved when you were in elementary school or high school or college or a young adult can really help transport you back to that time that you felt way more connected with you. Number 4 is to be alone, and I mean undistracted, be alone. Most of the time, we are taking in some sensory stimuli. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go and do a deprivation chamber, a sensory deprivation chamber. I've done it, it's super cool. But if you're going to do it, you need to make sure that you talk to a lot of times a therapist about it because it can bring up some definite stuff, especially if you have any mental illness issues or PTSD. That's not what I'm suggesting, but what I am suggesting is that you spend some time just by yourself without social media, without the TV on, without music even on. Whether you go for a walk, or by the way, you could use this alone time to write in your journal or you meditate, taking some time alone makes a huge difference. The distractions and the noise create pressure and confusion. So it's important to unplug from that. And number 5 is seek professional help. I know that some of you are nervous about this particular step, but it can be really beneficial to see a therapist if you have unresolved stuff. And please let me encourage you that if you've tried cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, in the past, which is that traditional talk therapy, and it hasn't worked for you, that you may need just a different approach. Try out DBT, try out EMDR, do a little digging and research and see what might work best for you because there are so many options. I was just watching a documentary about drama therapy the other day, and that might be the thing that is really beneficial to you. Seek out a therapist, or alternatively, seek out a life coach to help you identify your goals and your path forward. Now, please understand that life coaches, unless they are actually therapists, because some therapists are also life coaches, are not therapists. Okay. Life coaches really should not, and I'm sure I'm going to get blow up in my comments from life coaches who do this. Life coaches dealing with trauma or trauma resolution, that can all be unsafe and problematic. So see a therapist for that. See a life coach about how you want to move forward in your life. But if you have unresolved childhood stuff, that is therapy world. Okay. But seek that professional help. Most of the time, doing this alone takes a lot longer. It can be very, very stressful. And in addition to that, sometimes we end up back in that spiral of shame. Now, I have a couple more ideas about how to find yourself and reconnect with yourself. They're on the blog. So I'm going to go ahead and link the blog post in the description below so that you can get over there and read all about it. But just know that you are worth finding. You are absolutely amazing and you deserve to live the life that you've been dreaming of. And you need to make space for yourself to show up and to show up authentically. You can do it and you do deserve it. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss a single thing, including the follow-up video to this one where I dig deep into welcoming and accepting yourself. All right. Bye, everyone.